this is Mrs. Smeckens, and we've been working on how we can write about what we read. After we're done reading, we could do a paraphrase, which would be a part of the text where we would put it into our own words and say what the author said. But in the last lesson, we talked about writing about a whole text, a story, and how you can summarize the whole story with somebody wanted but so then. And the reason we wanted to use this is because when you write a summary, summaries are short. Even if the text is long, summaries are short. And so when you summarize a story, we want to make sure we use only the most important information. And that was somebody wanted, but so then. And this works great for stories and for a lot of nonfiction text that is sequenced. But it doesn't work for all nonfiction text. No, we're going to need another tool. Kind of like I taught you this one yesterday. We're going to need another tool to summarize other kinds of nonfiction text, because this isn't going to work. And it looks like this. It looks like a web, but it's a little different web, isn't it? Let's just first look at the four ovals on the corners. So there would be several different details grouped here, several different details in this grouping, several different details in this grouping, and several different details in this grouping. This is where the title of the text would go. So this is the title. And then as you're reading and thinking, and you read and you think, and you read and you think, and remember, we learned how to take notes, didn't we? And so when we read and we think, ooh, that's an important detail, we should write that down. And when we read another detail and think, yeah, that's important, we should write it down. Then rather than just writing it down on this, the text says, and it means, and it says, and it means. This is great, but it's not going to help us write a summary. No, because it's not organized. It's just a big list of thoughts. What we need to learn how to do when we write a summary about most nonfiction text is we have to first read and group the information we learned. When we group it, then we'll be able to write about the most important in a summary. In this lesson, I just want to work on how do you group the details. In the next lesson, we'll work on how do you write the summary. So I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put this little kind of bluish, similar looking web. As I tape that up there, I want us to realize that when you're reading nonfiction text, that sometimes authors give us really helpful text features. And we're going to start with one of those really helpful text features. Let me advance in my screen here to this article. Okay, so you see the title, the headline at the top, parents may fret, but even experts say social media use has benefits. Okay, so that's the headline, that's the title. Okay, but do you see the subheads? Behavioral problems, good points, bullied kids, anxious teens. You guys, there are your groupings. Yeah. Look, you need to collect details in this oval for behavior problems with social media. All the details that go with good points would go here, and you would label it good points. You want to use the subhead. If they give you a subhead, put it as the label. Oh, it's so helpful. The next label says bullied kids. Any details that you read in that section about bullied kids, any of those details will go here. And then the last one, anxious teens. Anxious teens. Any details about that would go here. What we're learning to do is when we read informational text and it has subheads, we want to keep the information grouped. We don't want to just do a grocery list of details. We want to be able to group it so we can eventually write an organized summary. We're only working on the grouping in this lesson. But do you see how those subheads are huge? See how helpful those are? Okay, so let me show you what this would look like. I'm going to take one of the subheads, okay, behavioral problems. I'm just going to take that section. And I have a giant part of the web. So do you see how that's one oval of all four? Okay, just gives us a little more space to write, and it's not so overwhelming. I think sometimes that can be kind of overwhelming. There's a lot going on there. All right, so we're going to pull that back a little bit. Okay, so the first thing you do when you're taking notes, we're taking notes, you guys. We're taking notes, and the first thing you want to do is put the subhead category right here. So what's the category of this? Behavioral problems. So that's what you write. You always want to give it a category, okay? If you don't give it a category, you won't remember what all these details are for. Look back at your screen for a minute. Do you see how the word detail, 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 do you see how it's in green? Why is it in green? Because those are actual words the author said. That came from my reading voice. Do you see the bullet, the little dot in front of the word detail? That's my way of saying I got 1 detail, 2 detail, 3 details. I think you should use bullets every time you put down another couple words that are important to the category. You're going to write them down there. Let Mrs. Macken show you how this looks and sounds, okay? And I'm going to jump to this slightly larger one. This is the same thing, behavioral problems, but it's just a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to read and think, and then I'll show you how I jot things down. Studies show problems could come from using social media too much. Those can include anxiety, which can make it hard to relax. What am I reading for? I'm supposed to be reading and thinking, are there any details about behavior problems? Well, I said anxiety, and I said hard to relax. And my thinking voice says, well, those are problems. If you're anxious and nervous and scared, if you can't relax, I'm going to write those down. Now watch how I do this. It doesn't matter which one you start in. You can start in any pie piece you want. Okay, so I'm going to write down anxiety because that was the author's word, and hard to relax. Now watch, don't write it here and don't write it here because hard to relax is another detail that goes with anxiety. Hard to relax, it goes here. Do you see how both of those are in the same pie piece? Because they're like synonyms. They're like saying the same thing just with different words. Yeah. I don't want anything about anxiety. I want to keep in this pie piece. But if I learn of another problem, I'll put it maybe in this pie piece. Okay? But all anxiety details should go here. All right, here we go. Let me keep going. Most teenagers today are on social media sites. Some teens feel anxious if they can't share posts. I saw another reference to anxious. But I picked up a new detail. Why are they anxious now? Because they can't share the posts. Does that go on its own? No. Why? Because it's related. So keep it here. Anxious when they can't share posts. Just jot down key words from the author. Okay? But because it's related, it goes here. Let me read the next sentence. They want to see what their friends are doing. They also might feel bad. My thinking voice is saying that's a problem. If they don't have many friends online. A problem is they feel bad if they don't have many friends online. Is feeling bad part of anxious? Yes. So I know it's getting full, but it goes in the same pie piece. Yes, it does. Feel bad. And why do they feel bad? They don't have many friends online. A few friends online. Oh, Miss Smeckens, you're leaving your piece. That's okay. It's just a quick note taking. So if you go, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. But I want to keep as much in that one because these all go together. Okay. Let's read the last paragraph. Shreya Hessler is a psychologist in Bel Air, Maryland. Psychologists look at how people behave and think. Teens often fear they are missing out on something, she said. Social media can make teens feel left out. Fear. Oh, wait, we had anxiety, hard to relax, feel bad. But fear, that's different. They're afraid of missing things. That's a new problem. So it goes in its own pie piece. Fear. That's a new problem. It gets a new pie. I could have put it here. Doesn't matter. You could put it either one. And don't just write fear. What are they afraid of? Missing out. So I jot fear with a bullet, missing out with a bullet. And I finished it. I finished this section. But Miss Smeckens, you still have a spot there. I know, but the author didn't give me any more details for this category, behavior problems. So you leave it blank. You can leave it blank. You leave it blank. Don't make stuff up if the author didn't give it to you. Okay, help me with the next one. Let's go to the next subhead. Okay, look at your screen. So now we're still reading about social media, but now we're in a new category. So am I going to still use this oval? No, I need a new oval because I have a new subhead. And what goes here? The category. But what's the category? Good points. Yes. So I jot the category, the subhead. When authors give you subheads, use them. Use them to help keep you organized. Okay, so now I'm going to read and you be listening for, Miss Smeckens, that's a good point. You should write that down. All right. It's not all bad, though. They're talking about social media. It's not all bad, though. Experts don't think teenagers should stay off social media. Okay, so it's not all bad. It's a good point. But we don't have any details yet, so I don't have anything to write down. They're just kind of getting us ready for the details, right? Topic sentence. Leslie Parker works with teens in Baltimore, Maryland. She said there are good things about social media. There we go. We're getting ready for good. She said good things instead of good points, but I don't have any details yet. Remember, I write down details. I don't have any details. They're just kind of saying there are good things. I'm still waiting for what are they so we can write them down. One is staying connected to people. Staying connected to people. Is that a good thing? Would we write it down? Where? Does it matter? Pick a pie piece. Doesn't matter. So what are you going to write down? Staying connected. Staying connected. Because that's the author's words. You write down the author's words, details from the text, reading voice. Staying connected with people. Okay, so I know it means with people, but I'll go ahead and jot that down just so we're all clear. So one of the good things about social media is you stay connected with people. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going. It depends on how students use it, she said. Many use social media for good reasons. All right, well, we had good points. We had good things. She said good reasons, but there's no detail there. I need details. So don't write down good reasons. That's not a detail. Let's keep going. Last sentence, Hessler said people can share their life stories. They can share their life stories. Is that a good point? Should we write it down? Okay, so we write down share their life stories or share stories. Where? Is share stories a new good point? Or is share stories more about Staying connected with people. It goes with this, doesn't it? So that means you write it in here. So share stories goes in the same pie piece. And now you're done with this section. But Mrs. Smeckens, I have 2 open spots. Yes, you do. It's totally fine. Sometimes when you read, you're going to read a really long section, and you'll have details here, and you'll have details here, and you might have 1 or 2 here, and you haven't finished the section yet, and all of a sudden there's more, and you're like, but I used all my pie pieces. You just draw another one. There. You just made space. Yeah, you could draw another one there and make space. You want to keep them separate, but if you need 5 pie pieces, you need 5. If you only need 1, you only need 1. What we're learning in this lesson is that as readers, when we want to summarize nonfiction text after reading, we cannot do it without really good notes during reading. We need to make sure that we're taking notes. We read a little and we take notes, read a little and take notes. And how do we take those notes? We're going to use the subheads, and we're going to keep our notes grouped. That's what we're learning in this lesson. Now, if you were in Mrs. Smeckens' class, there are 2 more parts to this article, 2 more subheads. Look, we did behavioral and we did good points, but there's bullied kids and there's anxious teens. And you can either use the oval pie pieces on this and print it out twice, or you could just grab a piece of paper and you could just draw an oval with lines and do it too. But what goes at the top of the oval? The subhead. So you're doing 2 of them. There's 2 left. You're doing bullied kids. That's 1 oval, and anxious teens. And I want you to read, and with your reading voice and thinking voice, I want you to be deciding, is that a detail about bullied kids? Does it get its own pie piece, or does it go with another detail? And then, is that a detail about an anxious teen? I'm going to write it down. Is it on its own pie piece or with another pie piece? I want you to fill out both 2 more ovals to see how you're grouping details based on the subheads. This is going to get us ready to write a summary after reading. If you were in Mrs. Smeckens' class, that's what we would be doing, but your teacher might have a better idea.